attracted attention to the problems related to birth and death. This resulted in the study of the psychological impact of the birth trauma, development of pre- and perinatal psychology, and the introduction of new obstetric practices. Systematic study of non-ordinary states of consciousness, together with the pioneering work of patients suffering from incurable diseases, and conducted by Dr. Ross and others, then led to an unprecedented renaissance of interest in the psychology of dying and near-death experiences. And I remember when I was in high school, I actually had to do a report, and we got to choose our subjects, and we had to stand up in front of the class, and you actually had to have all your notes, everything, and to speak. Well, the first time was 10 minutes, and of course, doing this, and you get used to talking and things, but when you're a kid, you don't seem to realize how much information it takes to fill in the space of 10 minutes. And this was what I had done, was near-death experiences, and it was quite a fascinating subject, to say the least. They tend to seriously give the people who encounter these experiences a new lease on life, for sure. They definitely stop and enjoy things and realize that death has no purpose if you're not happy today. Death has no purpose if you're not enjoying life and living it to its fullest. Death has no purpose when you don't love those around you. Fear is such a bad thing, and there are only two true emotions, love and fear, and hate is not the opposite of love. I don't care what anybody says. The opposite of love is not caring one way or the other. Hate is a strong emotion that's on the same side as love. It's just kind of like the yin and yang of that, And the opposite is just not giving a shit, and it's scary. It is not easy to understand why the public suddenly became open to issues related to death. Even at the time of the deepest cultural denial, there were isolated researchers, particularly parapsychologists, who were studying various aspects of death and dying and publishing papers and books on their findings. For some reason, the professional circles and the general public paid very little attention to these reports until Raymond Moody's Life After Life became an overnight and of course, international bestseller. His book was a study of near-death experiences based on interviews with 150 people who went through this, who had, of course, a close brush with death. Rather than making a breathtaking new discovery, he basically, and this is what's great, confirmed findings of many of his predecessors. He showed that people who come close to death experience a series of most extraordinary adventures in the consciousness that deserve serious attention of professionals as well as laymen. People tend to ignore this and just blow it off, thinking it's synapses firing off in the brain as it slowly loses oxygen, and none of that actually makes sense. At least not the way things are usually described. It's amazing. As Moody himself pointed out, similar experiences had been reported not only in earlier decades, but throughout the centuries. The literature of ancient cultures who had a remarkably sharp awareness of the spiritual and philosophical importance of death abounds. Okay, now this is what's interesting. In eschatological passages. Now, I actually had to look this up yesterday. I was quite curious. I'd come across that. Eschatology is actually the study of all death and all things pertaining to death in society. So, very interesting. The ancient texts are specifically dedicated to the problems of death and dying are usually referred to, of course, as the Books of Dead. The oldest of these texts are the so-called Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's actually not just one book. It's a collection of ancient Egyptian papyri based on the book of literature called the Pert Emru, I think. Usually translated as manifestation in the light or coming forth by day. Now, from what I understood studying Egyptian mythologies and Egyptian religions, is this has to do with Kepher, and it's spelled X-E-P-E-R, well, at least, in English, considering it was images, I don't know how they understood how to spell it, but anyways, Kepher, it means to bring into being, which basically is a way to manifest your own reality, and to bring into being, basically, you have to have faith in yourself, for one, and you have to constantly learn. Once you stop learning, then you stagnate, and you're no longer in a state of Kepher. So it actually was a way for them to learn, to continue to learn, and the spiritual was all a part of their everyday life, something that we're lost for. But they also existed with nature. They built buildings from resources that were found there, you know. They didn't like come and make metal and build big metal structures or, you know, big concrete structures that disconnected them from the earth, because we're a part of it. And, you know, you can, even if you're a Christian, that doesn't mean that you can have to be disconnected from things that are natural. They're two different subjects. Spirituality is an awesome thing, and the earth, we are a part of it. And we are so disconnected, you know. It's like when we go outside, people are automatically in shoes. You don't even touch anything, you know. And it's very scary. Let's see. There was one thing I wanted to come from here. Let me find that. But while I'm looking for that one last statement, I wanted to come from this book before I end this little thing on this. It looks like we have a caller from the 209 area code. Are you with me?
I am. Let me turn my radio down here. Yay, this is Uncle Buck. Is this Nicole?
Yes, it is.
Hey, great. Can't wait for your show. You know, you're sitting there talking about how, you know, we're disconnected and these, you know, fiberglass, metal, you know, stucco buildings, you know, and how these other cultures just before us for thousands of years, you know, had earth structures of, you know, the elements. And, dude, that's where I've reached this nexus. In 07, I had quite a few trucks. I was running Otis Elevator, which is the largest elevator company in the world, and the construction business died in America, basically overnight almost, seemed like it. And I got rid of a lot of trucks because I had to, and I still got a few, but I reached this nexium, man, of like, you know, what the heck is this all about? Because I made well over $1 million, right, in 07. And that was my personal take-home. I made several million in gross. And I wasn't any happier. I was more frustrated, more exhausted, more worried as I gained more things and stuff.
And yeah, we've been duped into believing that money and status are power.
Yeah. Yeah, and well-being. And so I look at it, in one way, it was like one of the best things that ever happened to me, and I still make a good income, but I'm exiting the system of, you know, the I like to call it the matrix, you know. It's like I'm putting a teepee up here in the spring as I work on my rock home.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm doing it all by myself, you know. I might get a guy here or there who wants to help me or pay some labor, but I just wanted to be like once I started looking at teepees, there was a Colorado teepee and yurt company, and it was like a couple thousand for this teepee, but it's extraordinary. And I said, dude, I'm gonna have a hard time moving out of this teepee.
My sisters and stuff, they used to take care of me as a kid. I was a tomboy and I was the oldest, so they always cleaned. If my room got too dirty, they'd get tired of looking at it, they'd clean it. You know, if I got hungry, they'd fix. And so, like, I left this, you know, when I was on my own, and I spent most of my time on my own, I thought I had to be, you know, take care of myself. I didn't want kids, anything else, you know. And I didn't realize how bad it was until, like, now I actually cook all the food, everything I do, you know, from scratch. I don't, like, no more fast food, and now when I get fast food, it'll seriously make you sick. And it's like, I got a McDonald's double cheeseburger, bit into it, and just about threw it back up. And it's like, it used to taste, you know, it was good back when I was eating them every day, you know? And now it's like, oh, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It doesn't taste good. There's nothing good about it. Your stomach gurgles all night, you know, and you feel sick.
Sludge, yeah.
And it's the same with TV, believe it or not. If you give up TV for a week and you disconnect yourself from that signal, from that programming, you will actually go through withdrawals. Your body will go through physical, chemical, and emotional withdrawals. And then but after that, your eyes are awake. And you look and you see the world. It's like that movie. What was that movie called? I think Alive or something. It was weird with that guy with the sunglasses, right? And when he...
Oh, yeah, They Live.
Yeah, and so that They Live, that's what it is, yes. and he could see the world for what it was. And that's exactly what happens when you turn TV off, and I'm serious. It's so odd. And
exit out of the system of, I got